Hello guys and welcome back to HJW Gaming and a continuation of my commander guides and a continuation of my current theme of looking at the Dwarven commanders. This time we're going to be taking a look at Thorin Oakenshield. Now we're actually going to look at Thorin in two different ways here, as I do think there are two pretty decent builds for Thorin. Anyway, first off, we'll take a look through his stats. You'll see he does have a pretty substantial damage stat with 22 to 25, which is pretty strong. I think for the tier 3, second only to Dane Ironfoot, I believe. But he also has a particularly high command as well, with 127, offering him, I think, around 10 or 11% damage resistance. So that makes him pretty good at having, acting like a hybrid or a tank, as well as also pretty good at dealing damage, which would suggest it lends itself towards a hybrid build pretty well. He does also have a very strong attack stat and surprisingly pretty decent defense as well. And along with the other Dwarven commanders, he does unfortunately suffer from a lack of initiative. So first up gear wise, we will take a look at damage gear. So we're actually going to take just standard, in both builds here, standard damage gear for Thorin, and that means basically prioritising the highest damage and highest attack gear you can possibly get. On screen are my three favourite choices. Of course there are alternatives as well, like the Reach of the Riddermark for example, but these are probably the three best choices. The top two because they provide the highest attack and damage stat possible. Of course Axe of Khazad Doom being the priority, but I also like the Blazing Tongue shown here as well, as it can be more easily refined as it is available in season end rewards and still has a very high maximum damage stat of 30, even if its attack and minimum damage is a little bit lower. But in both the hybrid and the full physical damage build, we are going to be looking to use a damaging weapon to try and help Thorin get the maximum damage he possibly can. So this is what I'd recommend in both cases. If you're looking for exquisite rarity weapons, there's not really a lot to be said here. The best three again are on screen, but the only one really worth it would be the Battle Axe, as it does offer the 10 to 14 damage, which again is nothing compared to, of course, its flawless counterpart, and that 18 attack. This is a significant downgrade on the flawless, so use that if you can, even with only a couple of strengthens and refines. But if you have to use exquisite gear, the Battle Axe is definitely the best. Into chest pieces, there are a little bit more discussions to be had here. So on screen I'm showing kind of the standard physical damage dealing best in slot kind of gear. You'll see there's a mix of classic and 2.0 gear. If you're going for the full damage build and you only have 2.0 gear, the Berserker's Raiment at the top is probably the best, as it offers the highest attack increase with 24. It also gives him a little bit of initiative, though that's not really too great, but it'll also increase unit attack, which can support him a little bit more as well, which isn't too bad with Thorin, as he is naturally going to be somewhat of a hybrid even when you build him out full for physical damage, so that unit attack will kind of get used a little bit as well, but primarily we're focusing on that additional attack. Alternate choices in these two classic ones for the damage build is the classic Durin's Plate and the classic Golden Skin. With both of these, the Fine effect can give an enormous attack boost, a possible 72 with the Durin's Plate and possible 66 with the Golden Skin. This is enormous when you consider that, compare that to the Berserker's Raiment. That you're getting 40 to 50 more attack, which is a huge damage boost for Thorin, at the cost, of course, of not getting any HP for your commander. And of course you do lose set effects as well if you use classic gear in any of your slots, so you have to just bear this in mind. But that is a huge attack boost, so in a lot of cases the classic gear here will be best in slot. Now, need to discuss slightly here the Elven Hauberk. If you are able to get, during your physical damage build, Thorin's attack over, say, 210 to 220, without needing to use a chess piece to do so, then I would recommend using the Elven Hauberk. Reason being is you've already got a very high attack, and beyond that point you do start to see diminishing returns from boosted attack on your damage. So it's actually better here to go for the unit defense, which this offers up to 48 unit defense, and that will make you significantly more survivable. If you're using the hybrid build of Thorin, this is the best in slot item, as we are looking to increase that troop survivability. Therefore, that is definitely the best in slot item and the one you'll be wanting to use most. For exquisite rarity, there are actually some excellent choices here. You'll see there's quite a few classic options that are excellent, particularly spearheaded by the goblin armour. If you have this fully refined with the gallant effect, you can get 54 bonus attack, which is obviously enormous. Let's say that's 30 more than a fully strengthened 2.0 Berserker's Raiment. So that is a huge amount of bonus attack. So that is for only using up purple rarity gear, obviously exquisite rarity gear, so you're not using up gold items. This is an excellent item to use. So if you still have this available, then I would recommend using it. Of course, you can't trade back to classic gear, so you'd have to still have it left over from classic. The gallant effect is also available on the scale mail, which can offer plus 36 attack, but also gives some unit defense as well. So particularly beneficial as well if you're using the hybrid, as that unit defense can be excellent. And similar ways in with the superior hauberk, which only offers plus 30 attack. It still has the 15 unit defense, but you can use it with an effect like melee vigor to get 6% less melee damage. Now, if you're limited just to 2.0 gear, you will be wanting to use the scale mail as well, the 2.0 scale mail. Reason for this is it offers the highest amount of attack at 15, as well as a small amount of defense, but mainly we're just looking for that bonus attack. Though you'll notice how far down this is compared to the flawless rarity items and also the classic items above. So I wouldn't recommend using this if you can avoid it. And that applies to both the hybrid and the classic physical damage build. So into helms, there's a bit of a discussion here. For the physical damage dealers, these are the best in slot on screen. The 2.0 Cask of Pride offers the highest attack increase at plus 48, which is the main thing here we're looking for, and also offers 1570 HP when fully strengthened. Of course, that doesn't make a huge impact on PvP a lot of the time, but that can be quite useful, particularly at the start of seasons when you're looking to do, say, the one troop method. The classic Cask of Pride is also very strong. It does offer a little bit less attack with plus 33, but you can get a massive plus 30 unit defense. For the hybrid build, I would recommend the classic version, and for the physical damage dealing, I would recommend the 2.0 version. Classic's good as well because you can get Fortitude of Soldiers, which does offer a good percentage decrease of damage to your melee units. Now, also a good classic gear for the physical damage version is also the Cask of the Submerged Isle with Last Resort or Determination. Offers a good attack boost at plus 30, very comparable to the Cask of Pride, but Last Resort actually massively increases your damage beyond round 6, so you can get some huge bursts of damage going on into the later rounds of the fight, which often Thorin will be there because of that higher command stat. Determination is there shown as an option, as Determination offers you 90% commander madness reduction when fully refined, so you're less likely to deal damage to your own troops through madness, which is a very strong effect. And if you're using the hybrid version, actually, this can be a fantastic choice as well. Similar to the hauberk, as I described earlier, as it gives strong unit defense. But you'll only want to do that when you have a pretty decent attack stat, as you don't want to leave Thorin stranded at under 100 attack, doing not much damage, but having good unit defense. As if you're going to do that, you might as well use another tanky dwarven commander such as Falgin. But this can still be a good choice for the hybrid build, but I'd recommend probably using one of the ones shown on screen and then using Elven Hauberk instead. For exquisite rarity headgear, there's not a lot to be said here. The classic full helm is by far and away the best choice here, as it does offer, when fully strengthened, a massive plus 45 attack. Similar story to kind of like the goblin armour that we saw earlier, and that the classic gear does offer enormous attack bonuses at the cost of only commander HP, and having melee vigour does also help reduce the amount of damage your troops take. If you're limited to 2.0 gear, then the full helm again is the best, though it only offers 18 attack, so it's a pretty big downgrade, but you do get 860 HP along with that. And another pretty decent choice here is the classic Horseman's Helm with Resolve. It gives plus 24 attack, so still more than the 2.0 full helm, but the Resolve effect, again, it gives you that madness immunity, similar to Determination on the Cask of the Submerged Isle I mentioned earlier. Any of these classic items in particular, you get an enormous payback again of attack boost for the cost of only purple rarity items. So if you have these to hand, I can definitely recommend these, and you can use your gold gear to strengthen elsewhere and improve other commanders. On to accessories next, and most people playing currently will be aware of what the best choices are here. The Palantir is by far and away the best, offering up to plus 48 attack when fully strengthened, and a 10 additional damage when fully refined, 5 at minimum refine. The Drums of Barad-dûr are also great, assuming that you probably have another damage dealer in your formation other than Thorin. The Palantir might be refined on your other damage dealer, so then you'd give him the second choice option, which would be the Drums of Barad-dûr. So I would choose that, definitely, unless you have a Palantir available, of course. Another good choice is the classic smoking pipe here, as you see, with heroism, as it does provide up to an 18% commander damage increase, so that's a huge boost to your commander damage. So if you don't have any other choice, you could use this classic gear if you still have it available. Other backup choices could kind of be the 2.0 smoking pipe, though of course the focus kind of goes to waste, but it's just another damage item that you could put on to increase Thorin's damage that you therefore can also refine more often, as it's available in the season pass every season. If you're running the hybrid build, though, it could be very useful to run a command-based accessory, something like the I think it's Defender of the Mountain, which offers a good amount of command and also commander attack. Though, personally, I would run damage here, unless you need to get Thorin's command up a little bit higher, but I'd recommend boosting his attack and damage, personally. Exquisite Rarity here isn't really worth talking through, as none of them offer bonus damage. The 2.0 Bone Talisman does offer the highest amount of attack, so I've put that on here. And the classic drums do offer a small amount of attack, and you can use Bane of Dwarfs to get plus 18 damage to dwarf units, which are pretty popular in today's meta. So if opponents are using 4 dwarf units, you will get that flat 18% bonus damage, which can be pretty good. But personally, I wouldn't recommend using it. I'd instead just use one of the damage items from the Flawless category. Personally, I think those are the best in slot. Now, let's talk through Thorin's skills before I recommend which builds to use for physical damage and for hybrid. His top respect 0 skill does physical damage to one formation. When 10 skill points are allocated, this is 200 to 400% damage, so an average of 300%. 5 skill points also reduce the amount of damage you receive on your next instance by 10%. And the 10 skill point option reduces damage taken by 2 allied formations by 3%, and this stacks as well. So Oaken Shield triggers with a 1 round cooldown, so rounds 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. So you can have this trigger 5 times, so by round 10 your allied formations are taking 15% less damage. So this can be a pretty strong effect, particularly if you do last all the way until round 10. The bottom respect 0 is Revivalist. This again does deal an amount of physical damage, 300% to one formation, so the same average as Oaken Shield, but without the upside or possible downside. With 5 skill points, you can offer a stun, so there's a 15% chance to inflict a stun on a target for 1 round. There's a small heal as well at 10 skill points, not worth talking through, and it also triggers every 2 rounds due to the 1 round cooldown. Respect 3 is King of Durin's Folk, which is a support skill that boosts the defense of your dwarven units in 3 allied formations by 15 when fully strengthened, and the 5 skill point option reduces damage by 5%, which is pretty decent. Small HP boost at 10 skill points isn't really worth mentioning. His Respect 5 skill is King Under the Mountain, which is a very popular skill due to its popularity with Dane Ironfoot, of course, being one of his best skills. This is another skill with a 1 round cooldown, so all Thorin's damage bursts come every second round, which is pretty great to see. So King Under the Mountain means that you can deal up to 160% damage to 3 enemy formations, so a huge amount of damage. This is his highest damage skill, with 540% every second round. With 5 skill points, you also gain 10% armor, basically armor resistance for 1 round. So any physical damage dealt by Thorin will ignore 10% of the opponent's target's defense. And with 10 skill points, you will trigger that the next instance of damage will deal a bonus 10% damage. Now this is an amazing skill as it not only deals a huge amount of damage, it also increases the damage of your follow-up skills as well. But similar to Dane, it means you have to skill in the right order if you're going to use Thorin's damage dealing skills. So with King Under the Mountain, of course, giving such a great boost to all other skills, you want to make sure to put skill points into this one first. The reason for that, of course, is that bonus 10% armor ignore and the one instance of plus 10% damage, you want that to trigger and boost your next damage dealing skill. So it can be either Oaken Shield or Revivalist, they do the same damage, but you're going to have Oaken Shield maximised more likely as it's the better skill in my opinion. Now before I move on to talking about Thorin's Relic, I'm going to quickly talk through the two different skill builds I've been mentioning throughout. Shout out to Captinian here of Home for providing me with this screenshot here of the physical damage build. You can see he's using the gear I recommended earlier on his Respect 12 Thorin. Now you will put 10 points into King Under the Mountain. As I said, the highest damage skill, and you want to put skill points in this first so that you get those damage boosts for follow-up skills. Next you want to put the points into Oaken Shield. The reason for this is that, in my opinion, the damage reduction effects of Oaken Shield are stronger than the particularly weak heal available at 10 skill points of Revivalist, though the stun at 5 skill points is pretty decent. So if you do get him to a higher respect level and level 50, you will pick that up towards the end and give him a nice little boost. But in my opinion, this is the best setup here. Points first into King Under the Mountain, then Oaken Shield, and anything left into Revivalist. From this, it is possible to get some pretty decent damage numbers. You'll see here on the screenshot, he is outputting around 90k of damage, which is not enormous by any means. It's not, of course, matching up to the Bayon or either of the two Danes here, but it is a pretty strong amount of damage when you also consider that Thorin has a high amount of command, so usually will be more survivable as well. So we'll take a little bit extra damage. So 90k is nothing really to be sniffed at, so you can get good output from him. In my opinion, less than an Ascended, fully equipped Gimli, or of course Dane as well, but still Thorin can deal a pretty decent amount of damage. Next up is the hybrid build, and thank you to Noble Wizard from Smol for taking me through this one. You can see he does have a fantastic Zenith 6 Thorin. So what he's chosen to do is he hasn't actually maxed King Under the Mountain. Instead, he's probably started by putting a couple of points into this so that you get that trigger of the ignoring 10% defense of the opponent, though of course he hasn't got enough skill points to get it to 10 as of yet. I don't think he's at level 50, so he might get that towards the end. In fact, I believe he will get that towards the end. So he will have had to put skill points into that first. But actually he's prioritised getting 10 points into Oaken Shield, 5 into Revivalist, and 5 into Kings of the Durin's Folk. So he'll get a pretty good defense boost from the R3 here being 7.5. He'll also get that 5% reduced melee damage received. From 5 into Revivalist, he'll get that 15% chance of stunning a target every round. He'll also get all of the defensive buffs that come from Oaken Shield as well as its damage. And then finally, topped up damage from King Under the Mountain. Now you'll see his gear here is kind of a mix similar to what I said. He's using the highest damage gear possible, other than, of course, the Axe of Khazad-dûm, using the black bow here. So he's trying to increase that attack as much as possible whilst also providing ample troop support. So he is using the High Elf Hauberk, as mentioned, and also gone for the Chieftain's Gaze, which offers a good attack boost as well as troop attack and defense. And he's gone for the Defender of the Mountain as well, which gives good command again and defense for the stats. And you can see the Guardian here has a massive 154 defense, which with enormous defense like that is actually going to pretty hard curb the amount of damage that you receive from the opponents, which you should be able to see from the reports that I flashed up on screen. In almost all cases, Thorin has the highest number of troops left at the end, but it's still dealing a reasonably respectful amount of damage between 40 and 50k, which isn't too bad at all. Now, I'd only recommend using this hybrid build as kind of a third commander in the formation, almost like a support commander. You're using him instead of maybe like a Falcon or something similar, alongside 2 other damage dealers. So in this case, there's Ascended Gimli and Ascended Dane who are going to do more damage, so Noble Wizard has gone for Thorin as his support, but also damage dealer, alongside Gandalf the White. So he can still output a decent amount of damage, but also provide that large amount of bonus defense and support for his troops. So that's why you'd use this hybrid build. But for most people, unless you have this kind of fully decked out Thorin, the physical damage build likely will do better. Now I'm just going to finish off by talking through the Oaken Shield, which is, of course, Thorin's relic. Offers a reasonable amount of HP, but more what you're going to look for is that attack and unit defense, which is useful for both the damage and hybrid build as well. Its bonus statistic, Oath of the King, is reasonably decent as well. Increases Thorin's damage dealt by 10%. Unfortunately, it's only when you fight Orc or Uruk-hai units, however. When fighting these Orc units, it also reduces the damage received by 6%. Unfortunately, if you're in a non-roleplay server, this is likely to not be a very strong relic, so you may not look towards refining it, as of course you won't be facing many Orcs as they're not particularly meta. Different story, of course, if you're in an RP server, as it may be a little bit more valuable to you. And with that, that's everything I kind of had to say on Thorin. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. If you have, smash the like button, and please let me know which build of Thorin you think is most effective. And with that, I've been HJW Gaming, and I really hope to see you on the next one.